The request, I am Dr. Anurag Agarwal, professor in English, and today, on the request of many students all over India, I am here in front of you for this class, which I am giving to all over India students from Kashmir to Trivandrum who are listening me here live. And we are going to start the medieval period. My students who are already registered in my class, so they will be benefited because in this period again they will get something new, again they will get something, a great opportunity to hear this lecture for the second time and on a different note, and you will actually love this lecture to listen for the second time. And yes students, आप जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स इस समय हमसे जुड़े हैं, प्लीज हमें व्हाट्सएप करें, सॉरी व्हाट्सएप नहीं, हमें आप हमारे को इस टेक्नोलॉजी में जो आपको मैसेज बॉक्स दिख रहा है उस मैसेज बॉक्स पे अपना प्रेजेंस डालें, उसमें गुड आफ्टरनून गुड इवनिंग मुझे करें, तो मुझे ये पता चल जाएगा कि यस यू स्टूडेंट जिनको मैंने ये लिंक दिया था वो मुझे सुन पा रहे हैं या नहीं। और मुझे अच्छा लगेगा कि यस आपको मैंने जो लिंक दिया था उसमें आप रजिस्टर कर गए हैं और आप ये लेक्चर को देख पा रहे हैं, बिकॉज ईच एंड एवरी लेक्चर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट और इसमें बहुत मेहनत लगती है आपको पढ़ाने में और बहुत कुछ इसके अंदर होता है जो आपको एग्जाम क्वालिफाई कराता है। So Nisarga, Katija, Shreya, all of you, hello, good afternoon, good evening. And yes, I'm still waiting for number of students who have taken my link today on the request and try to make it free for the new upcoming students to join this batch. Okay. So I'm going to teach you this medieval period which starts from 1066 to 1485. Students, हमेशा ध्यान रखिए कि जब भी हम हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर पढ़ते हैं तो जहां से शुरू करते हैं वो ये है जगह, दैट इज 1066, एंड इन 1066 एट द बैटल ऑफ हेस्टिंग्स, Harold, who was the Saxon king of England, was defeated by whom? He was defeated by William the Conqueror, William the Duke of Normandy, who invaded England to support his claim that he had been promised the English throne. And he was a very efficient, ruthless soldier with a number of experienced, you can say, soldiers of fortune among his followers. William was soon able to conquer the whole country. पहले उसने थोड़े थोड़े पार्ट्स को कॉन्कर किया, बट एक समय ऐसा आया जब पूरे कंट्री को उसने कॉन्कर कर लिया। And who was he? He was William the Conqueror, William of Normandy. अब आता है और भी जरूरी बात, that the Normans, ये नाम कहां से डिराइव हुआ है? This name has been derived from Northmen, Northman, Northman. And these Northmen or Northmen were in large part descended from where? From the Vikings, who had seized and then remained in the northwestern France, which became known as Normandy. And after more than 100 years in France, the Normans had adopted many French customs and had their own variation of French language that is called Norman French. Who were these people? These people were curious people. They were superb soldiers. They were excellent administrators and lawyers, borrowers, adapters, but lacking the original ideas. Even the architecture, even the ambitious building in stone that they introduced into England originated in North Italy. And it used to be assumed that their Norman conquerors civilized these beaten Saxons. But in some respects, notably in their more democratic system of government and in their crafts and designs, these Saxons were further advanced than the Normans. And after the conquest, because of the highly centralized and stable Norman government, England became a formidable power. Also a country much closer to the mainstream of European civilization. Finally, And what is more important, students, here, that the Norman and the Saxon elements were soon fused into a national English character, neither predominantly Norman nor Saxon, but a subtle blend of both. Clear, students? Roughly, we can say from the 11th to the 15th century, Western Europe achieved a complete civilization and complete culture of its own. Although our present day civilization has grown directly out of the medieval civilization, life in the Middle Ages was far different from that we know today. If we begin with the medieval society had a secure foundation and framework of religion. Everyone was a son of a daughter of the church and on his way of heaven or hell. Fierce and powerful rulers could sometimes be seen walking barefoot to do the penance for their sins. Everybody, from the highest to the lowest, was conscious of being on trial here on earth. Of course, people misbehaved then, as people did before and have done since, but then they knew that they were misbehaving and that they were miserable sinners. So this world to them was like a transparency through which gleamed the fire of hell, or the that is the bright blue of heaven. And who was responsible, students? The church was responsible for the spiritual life of all the Christendom, linking together all the kingdoms, all the dukedoms, all the principalities, and the free cities of the Western and the Central Europe. In Latin, it had a language common to all educated people. Its chief scholars and philosophers, like the famous Thomas Aquinas, एक नाम है बड़ा famous, Thomas Aquinas, Aquinas. He was a chief scholar and a philosopher. He moved freely from the university to university and from country to country. Its abbeys, its monasteries were not only the chief centers of learning and the arts in the period before the establishment of the universities of Oxford and Cambridge in the 13th century. The greatest single achievement of the Middle Age was the idea of the Commonwealth of Christendom, a kind of a spiritual and cultural empire, uniting men of different nationalities, but speaking many different languages and enjoying many different regional ways of life. In our own day, science and invention have given us things that would have seemed to the medieval mind like so many strange miracles and the marvels of the sorcerers. However, we have not yet achieved our own equivalent of the Commonwealth of Christendom, a whole society, a civilization, a common culture, united under God. Now, the students, I will tell you about the medieval society. Existing alongside the church was the complicated feudal system based on land holding. Nobody owned land independently, but only as a vassal of, you can say, of an overlord who in turn owed allegiance either to some great noble or to the king himself. The system was really an elaborate chain of loyalties. And as towns grew, the craftsmen, the tradesmen organized themselves into guilds, GUILDS, which decided the wages, the prices, insisted upon the good standards of the material and its workmanship, and regulated terms of apprenticeship for the particular craft or trade. Indeed, not only the apprenticeship was, but almost everything in the medieval society, including the clothing a man wore, was regulated and carefully ordered. So, students, I am trying to give you all these little bit details so that you may understand the medieval period. This period is the basic of your history of English literature. अगर आपने इस लेक्चर को थोड़ा 50% भी समझ लिया तो आप ये समझ लीजिए कि यू विल बी होल्डिंग द स्टैंडिंग जहां से हम फाउंडेशन रखते हैं इंग्लिश लिटरेचर की. क्लियर? प्रियदर्शिनी, गुड आफ्टरनून. When they come to know how it is taught here, they will be coming in a lot number. Okay, still students, before I proceed, I would just like to again request all my new students who have requested me to give this class, but I am unable to see them here. So I am again requesting all of you to just put your presence here so that I may be able to know कि हमने आपको लिंक दिया था, आपने रजिस्टर करके आप देख पा रहे हैं या नहीं देख पा रहे हैं मुझे, क्योंकि ये चीज पॉसिबल नहीं है बेटा बार बार. इसलिए यू जस्ट टेल मी, यस सर, आई एम वॉचिंग यू, आई एम लिसनिंग टू योर लेक्चर. सो टू कंटिन्यू विद दिस, क्या था कि सभी लोग जानते थे कि उनकी क्या क्या स्थान है सोसाइटी में. एवरीबडी न्यू देयर प्लेस इन द सोसाइटी. Men of humble birth might be promoted to positions of great power and influence only in the church. And if we suddenly found ourselves members of such a society, we should undoubtedly feel that much of our personal freedom has been taken away from us. Because it was essentially a society with a secure religious foundation, there were, however, some compensations. For example, as we see in Chaucer, people belonging to different classes could quite happily go to a pilgrimage together in a way that would have been unusual in later periods. जो हमने उस पीरियड में देखा, शायद ये चीज आगे के पीरियड में हमको दिखाई नहीं पड़ेगी. Men had rights as well as particular obligations and responsibilities of their rank, of their class, and there was less, you can say, brutal tyranny than there was in the centuries that followed the Middle Ages. Medieval life was austere in many ways. No modern comforts and conveniences, not much choice in dress, travel was difficult and it was often dangerous, and food, even for the wealthy, offering very little variety. Most foodstuffs could not be preserved. Sometimes they have to be eaten quickly. And this explains the special feast times. While at the other times, the ordinary folk might find themselves on a very poor diet. But again, there were other compensations too. And yes, because there was no industry, no enormous factories pouring out smoke, no railroads, no dark cities, both in the towns and its countryside, the Middle Ages were bright and full of color. And what is this? It is a perpetual feast for the eyes. A great noble would have a crowd of retainers dressed in a gay livery. Costumes were often fantastically varied and rich, and a typical medieval throng would look to us like a splendid ballet. And religion also helped to relieve the austerity of the medieval times by preaching that life on earth was much less important than life after death. In spite of the treasured memory of the great heroes like King Richard, and who was King Richard? The lion-hearted. The history of the Crusades makes mournful reading. Each crusade began in high hopes, in a genuine desire to rescue Jerusalem from the Turks, but most ended in raiding, looting, and a tangle of power politics. Today, we use the term chivalrous to describe the conduct of the well-mannered and sensitive men towards women. But the medieval idea of chivalry though it included the relations between the sexes, went far beyond this. It sought, with the aid of the church, with the help of the church, to make the knightly warrior as devout and tender-hearted off the battlefield as he was bold and fearless on it. The blood-stained, ferocious history of the Crusades suggests that chivalry was an ideal rather than an actual code of conduct. It was, however, of considerable importance in literature, where as noble ladies insisted upon more and more songs and tales to please their taste, and it was joined to the companion idea of romance. Now we will talk about the medieval romance. What is medieval romance? Sushmita, good afternoon. Sushmita, yes, you are from Hyderabad. Medieval romance consisted largely of tales of chivalry, to which were added a love interest. Why? To please the ladies, and all sorts of wonders and marvels, enchantments, giants, dragons, wizards, etc. The medieval concept of love, of romantic love, came from France. Indeed, the first English romances, verses we can say, and later prose tales relating the quests knights undertook for the ladies were the translations from the French. These romantic tales came from three principal sources. First, the Britain, and from Britain में कहां से? The story of King Arthur and the Knights. यहां से देखिए, अब यहां से नेट एसेंट्रिक जो आपकी पढ़ाई है वो शुरू हो रही है. अभी तक हमने आपको जो बेस बनाया, अब देखिए नेट एसेंट्रिक क्वेश्चंस हम आपको अपने इस लेक्चर में बताना शुरू कर रहे हैं कि जो ये रोमांटिक टेल्स हैं, दीज केम फ्रॉम थ्री प्रिंसिपल सोर्सेज. फर्स्ट ब्रिटेन, ब्रिटेन में भी कहां से? द स्टोरी ऑफ किंग आर्थर एंड द नाइट्स. दूसरा फ्रांस, द कोर्ट ऑफ शार्लमैग्न. एंड थर्ड रोम, दैट इज द क्लासिकल स्टोरीज, जैसा कि कॉन्क्वेस्ट ऑफ ट्रॉय था. एंड इन द फेमस लीजेंड्स ऑफ किंग आर्थर and the Knights of the Round Table, collected and retold Sir Thomas Malory in his Morte d'Arthur. Chivalry and romance play equal parts. Now we will discuss here a very important section which I am going to teach you, the growth of the English nation. यहां से आपका प्रॉपर शुरुआत होती है इंग्लिश की, जहां से आपको अच्छा लगना शुरू होगा. अभी तक हमने आपका केवल वो बनाया, एक बेस बनाया था, नॉर्मन सैक्सन्स का इंग्लैंड कैसे फॉर्म हुआ, कैसा सिस्टम था ये. अब ये कैसे ये नेशन ग्रो हुआ, ग्रोथ ऑफ द इंग्लिश नेशन. इट टुक अबाउट 250 years, students, for the Normans and the Saxons to merge their individual identities into one English nation. And unfortunately, for both England and France, the English monarchy never voluntarily, you can say, relinquished its hold on its French possessions. So what happened? As a result, there were numerous costly wars in France, culminating in the series of wars known as the 100 Years' Wars. जो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनको पता भी होगा, हमने पढ़ाया भी है कि what is this 100 Years' War, 1337 to 1453. Although in the end, driven from the France, England won many of famous victories in these wars, thanks, you can say, largely to the terrible, you can say, to the English infantry, yes, used by the English from the time of Edward I onward. ये जो 6-foot bows थे ना, with yard-long arrows, they were capable of piercing a knight's armor, were among the most effective weapons that time known to the Western Europe in the late Middle Ages. And apart from these long bows were gunpowder, which was another new element in the European warfare. Eventually did much to end the Middle Ages by making knights and the castles, जो बड़े बड़े castles होते थे, less effective in warfare. So we can say that because the English kings and the barons, unlike those in the other countries, depended upon their bowmen who came from the common folk, these folk showed an independent spirit not to be found in the peasants abroad. But long before the Hundred Years' War, there had taken root in England certain ideas, practices that were very different, far different from those of the European countries. हेनरी टू हेनरी टू 1154 से लेके 1189 तक था 1154 to 1189 and he was a descendant of both William the Conqueror and Alfred the Great. He reformed the judicial system and firmly established the right of all Englishmen to trial by a jury of their peers. Peers मतलब होता है बराबरी वाले. And in 1215, the barons compelled Henry's son, King John, to sign the famous Magna Carta. Question कई बार आ चुका है, what is Magna Carta? This very elaborate Magna Carta was intended to do little more than protect the rights and the privileges of the barons themselves. But as it established the principle that even the king must obey the common law, it was to have great importance in later centuries in establishing the rights of the Englishmen. ये बहुत important चीज है Magna Carta. Clear? So now we will again go to the next point, that is you can say the War of the Roses. इसी में आता है आपको द वॉर ऑफ द रोजेस. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. क्या हुआ था स्टूडेंट्स ड्यूरिंग द मिडिल एजेस, नहीं ड्यूरिंग द हाई मिडिल एजेस, और हम आगे बढ़ते हैं रफली फ्रॉम द 12th टू द मिडिल ऑफ द 14th सेंचुरी. आगे बढ़ गए, यहां से देखिए काफी आगे आ गए. द इंग्लिश ऑफ ऑल द क्लासेस लिव्ड कंपैरेटिवली वेल एंड इन 1348 केम द ब्लैक डेथ, the first series of the plagues that killed more than 1/3 of the population. And the scarcity of labor, जब 2/3 लोग ही मर गए तो लेबर की प्रॉब्लम आ गई. And this scarcity of labor, which was caused by the plagues, was the death knell of feudalism. And in 1381, inflamed by the repressive laws and the burdensome taxes and encouraged by the teachings of the religious reformer John Wycliffe, the peasants rose in the bloody revolt, and the revolt was put down harshly, but economic and social unrest continued. And then, hard on the heels of the 100 Years' War, came the so-called War of the Roses, 1455 to 1485. And this war was a civil war between the House of York, whose emblem was the white rose, and the House of Lancaster, symbolized by a red rose. And when in 1485 Henry VII succeeded Richard III and united the feuding families through marriage, आपस में जो लड़ झगड़ रहे थे उनको एक कराया शादी के द्वारा, he ended the wars and founded the Tudor line of dynasty. And when Henry VII came to the throne in 1485, the real middle age had vanished. देखिए यहां पे जाकर के वो मिडिल एज खत्म हुआ है. सो ये आपको जो पॉइंट्स मैंने बताए वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट थे. सो वंस अगेन मेनी न्यू स्टूडेंट्स हैव ज्वाइंड. यस, गुड इवनिंग ऑल ऑफ यू. Still I'm waiting for many of my students who have taken the link, who must be listening to my lecture, but they have not made their presence so far. So I would again request them to just give a presence, nothing else. Okay. And yes, all my students who have registered, who are already in my class, they are also few here. Are they absent today, or are they here and they have not put their presence here? So now we are moving to Chaucer. Now from here, listen it वेरी केयरफुली, बिकॉज यहां से आपका एक्चुअल में एग्जाम शुरू हो जाता है। जो एग्जाम का जो बेस है वो इसके पहले मैंने आपको बताया, ये यहां से शुरू हो जाता है। ठीक है, ओके। New students who have taken the link today and they have not made their presence here, I'm requesting all of them who are listening my lectures, just make a presence here. So yes, Geoffrey Chaucer, the first father figure, the first great figure, father of English poetry and English literature was no other than but Godfrey Chaucer, 1340 to 1400. Although we can say that he was basically Chaucer is so far removed from us, and his manner and language, especially in the original Middle English, we can easily underestimate this astonishing man. He was not only a great poet, he was not only a great poet, but a fine storyteller, but also the first of the humorists. And this man, whether moving as a diplomat from one royal court to another royal court, and his greatest work belongs not to romance, but to poetic and the humorous realism. With Chaucer, the writer is no longer anonymous, but emerges in all its variety, in all its subtlety of an impressive individual. From the common people of early England and Scotland came ballads, songs not written down but recited and sung in innumerable alehouses and at thousands of firesides, जो आग लगा करके लोग बैठ जाते हैं गांव में और म्यूजिक गाते हैं, गाना गाते हैं, फोक गाते हैं. So this folk poetry flourished in the 14th and the 15th centuries, but it was not until the middle of the 18th century that it was carefully collected and published. The popular drama reached a tremendous height in the Elizabethan age, लेकिन उसका origin कहां था? In the Middle Ages. During the frequent holiday times, celebrating the religious festivals, the trade guilds entertained the crowd with the miracle plays, with the rough dramatizations of biblical stories which are performed on the large platforms, in the marketplaces, in the yards, in the churches. As a rule, the wicked characters in these plays, including the devil himself, were played as comic characters, thereby creating a tradition of popular comedy, and that Elizabethan dramatists followed. It was all very rough, very ready, but in these humble performances, there was already stirring the glorious theatre of Shakespeare. कि वो आने वाला है. And towards the end of the Middle Ages in England, during the dark, troubled times of the 15th century, the miracle plays gave place to the morality plays. And these plays, although presented in the same way as the miracle plays, tended to be elaborate, sophisticated dramatic allegories in which characters representing various virtues and vices confronted each other. The most famous of the morality play, and one is still often performed in many countries, is or was Everyman. Although this play was not English in origin, a thoroughly English adaptation of it soon became very popular. Even during the present century, this play has been performed in the English theatre fairly often. English literature owes a great deal to the Middle Ages. In this period, a great many literary forms had their origin. The Gothic, the Middle Ages best represented now by their glorious cathedrals, have always been haunted the imagination of more than poetic writers, English writers, with the brilliant and colored visions of the knights, the squires, the minstrels, the pages, the pilgrims, the crusaders, the monks, the scholars, and the fine ladies. You all can see these details in the Chaucer's poetry. But the real secret of this appeal of this period at its best does not lie in the romantic picturesqueness, enchanting though it may be. It comes from the fact that during these years, Western man, that restless, inventive, aggressive, troubled creatures, achieved an elaborate, organized way of life completely contained within a common religion. Now we will discuss one of the most important uh, this lecture about Chaucer's uniqueness. Why Chaucer is the father of English poetry, and why is Chaucer unique in himself? Just listen to this lecture carefully. And after listening to this lecture, students, feel and realize कि आपको कितना ज्यादा आता था या कितना नहीं आता था, और आप कितना ज्यादा आपका दिमाग नरिश हो गया है इस लेक्चर को सुनने के बाद. Chaucer was the first great English poet, and he remains till this day one of the greatest. We shall not be far from truth if we say that among the English poets who have drawn inspiration from human life and attempted to reproduce reality in their poems, taking reality as it is, not as the poet wants to be, Chaucer is the greatest. It is therefore as a great poet of life that Chaucer has got the eminent position among the poets of England. And his works have been popular in all the civilized countries of the world and at all times. His antique language and the remoteness of his subject matter, notwithstanding to the common readers, he has always been a harbinger of joy and delight in the ordinary act of living and in all types of human activities. Chaucer has given them a poetry in which joy in life is the central point, a realization that the pageant life, with all its faults, with all its aberrations, is worth enjoying. And in this way, he has given a new meaning, significance, and so many things to the material aspects of life. जॉन ड्राइडन का नाम आप जानते होंगे. जॉन ड्राइडन, who was once a great poet, who was at once a great poet and a great critic, when delighted by Chaucer's poetry, could only exclaim, क्या कहा? Here is God's plenty. ये कई बार एग्जाम में आ चुका है. Who has given this quote? किसने किसके लिए कहा है? Here is God's plenty! Exclamation mark. And this exclamation of appreciation epitomizes the great quality of Chaucer's poetry. He is the poet of earth, supremely content to walk, desiring no wings. Chaucer has an almost unending interest in life, and with serene detachment, he accepts things as they are, and exercising his wonderful capacity for enjoyment, takes delight in everything and invites his readers to share the enjoyment with him. He means somewhere Chaucer has repeated the phrase, उस फ्रेज का नाम है लॉ ऑफ काइंड, LAW of KIND. Very often he means by it the natural order of things, the stream of life as it flows from birth to death, and this is to him both law and impulse, and in conformity with it, he paints everything that life presents to him. He was a good painter without a brush. Human beings, birds, beasts, fields, trees, hills, rivers, seas, stars, planets in the sky. All this inspires him, and he has that poetic eye of imagination to enter into the very soul of each of them, and when describing it, makes fully alive and three dimensional. हर को वो जिंदा कर देता है और हर को थ्री डायमेंशनल कर देता है. His understanding of the men and women of whom he writes is complete. His slightest character sketches are always solid and three-dimensional. And this is the reason why in Chaucer's poetry there is no spirit of partisanship. The 14th century England, where he lived, was by no means a happy land. The political, the social, the religious, the economic situation, all was totally unsatisfactory. The Black Death, the Peasants' Revolt exposed the plague spots of the British life. And Chaucer lived in the midst of all this squalor and saw everything. Yet he did not protest or denounce. And like a true humanist with an unfailing sense of humor, Chaucer was interested in all the diverse shades of life. Like the character in Terence's play, he said, Homo sum humani nihil alium puto. ये उसकी इंग्लिश थी. इसको इंग्लिश में कहते हैं, I am a man. I consider nothing human alien to me. I am a man. I consider nothing human alien to me. So when Langland cried aloud in anger, Chaucer looked on and smiled. वो इतना कूल था, गुस्सा तो है ही नहीं. So by this sympathetic curiosity in life would not have been half so charming had it not been blended with clear self-knowledge. Chaucer never strikes up the pose of a superior person. His detached but amused observation of life is harmonized with a striking common sense about himself. He looks at himself without illusions, judges himself without bitterness, and is carried away by no desire to excel. He places himself on an average level and finds all the multitude of men beside him. Clear? So, the blending of sympathy for others with a clear self-knowledge results in the intelligence of the most admirable type, and he was actually sympathetic. And if it were absolutely necessary to define in a word the novelty of Chaucer's masterpiece, it might be said to show most of all the progress of intelligence. Poetry. What is poetry? It is just an expression, a poet's sympathy and understanding, intelligence, self-knowledge. And Chaucer, in this respect, among the English poets, was the first to choose the London dialect as his poetic language. It was a language still in the process of evolution, which was fresh, which was new, and where Chaucer was quick to foresee its possible future, the future possibilities, and its strong entrenchment in the life of the people. He took up and composed his great poems in this language. It is usually seen that a new and still developing language coincides with the crudity of thought and art, for there are very few writers who can successfully handle them. About Chaucer, we must say that he took up a language medium, still which was early in its early spring, and expressed through it mature poetic ideas, many of them borrowed from the literature of France, which had already passed through the 3 centuries of experiments and already attained a great degree of maturity. So after getting so much details about Chaucer, I'm going to discuss here his uh, poems, his poems one by one. Just 10 seconds. Yes. So now we will discuss here Chaucer's poetical works, which are of great importance for your exam. So first of all, there has been a great controversy about the exact number of poems that Chaucer has composed. Nobody knows कि कितने exact उसने लिखे हैं. But about his important works, the Chaucerian scholars are more or less agreed that Chaucer composed them at particular periods of time in their life. But about his less important works, there has been a lot of debates, and in the absence of dependable documents and records, critical opinions have never agreed about crediting Chaucer with their authorship. So the first which I want to teach you here is the Romance of the Rose, जिसको कि हम कहते हैं रोमांट ऑफ द रोज भी कहते हैं, which is supposed to be the earliest work of Chaucer, and it is a fragmentary translation. Romance of the Rose is a fragmentary translation of the French romantic poem Le Roman de la Rose. Original क्या था? Le Roman de la Rose by 2 authors, and these 2 authors are Guillaume de Loris and Jean de Meung. ये सब नेट एसेंट्रिक है, आपने एग्जाम में पेपर से देख लीजिएगा. ये जितनी भी चीजें मैं अब आपको बताने जा रहा हूं सब आपको पेपर्स में छपी मिलेंगी पिछले 10 साल में, कि व्हाट इज द ओरिजिनल ले रोमन डी ला रोज, हु आर द राइटर्स ऑफ दिस ओरिजिनल, गुलियाम डी लॉरिस एंड जीन डी मियोन, एंड यहीं से उठा करके चौसर ने लिखा है अपना रोमांस ऑफ द रोज. वी डू नॉट नो वेदर चौसर हैज ट्रांसलेटेड द पोएम, but it must have been quite early in the life. And in one of his later poems, जिसका नाम है Legend of Good Women, Chaucer refers to his authorship of his translation of the French poem. And the French poem is in 3 parts, partly written by Guillaume and partly by Meung. And the theme is courtly love, which is treated idealistically by the former poet and realistically and satiristically by the latter poet, that is Meung. And it was a very popular poem of the 13th century. The influence of the poem, however, on Chaucer's subsequent poetry was immense. Chaucer must have taken very great interest in the French original. Literally, hundreds of lines from the Roman appear in his own poetry, either in the close translation or in the paraphrase. Now there is a poem, आपने कभी सुना नहीं होगा शायद, उसका नाम है एन ए बी सी. एन ए बी सी ऐसे कर सकते हैं, एन ए बी सी. This was another piece of translation from a very long French devotional poem composed in 1330 by a French monk poet, Guillaume de Digouille करके कहा था कोई. Chaucer translated only a small portion of the original poem by that person, and it being a prayer to the Blessed Virgin. It was Lydgate, John Lydgate, the early 15th century poet, who first of all ascribed the translation to Chaucer. The critical opinion has since then placed the poem in Chaucer's second period. and sometime before 1370. And this translation is interesting since Chaucer rejects in his translation the octosyllabic verse of the French original and uses the 10-syllable line, an evidence of his growing spirit of maturity as a poet. So this is an ABC. Then there is another poem, Complaint into Unto Pity. इसका स्पेलिंग आप देख लीजिए. COM लिखिए, COM PLEYNT, unto, complaint unto pity, PITE. This is a poem by Chaucer on unrequited love, a common practice among the medieval poets. And this was an early poem by Chaucer. It has been surmised that the period of composition might be between 1367 or 1370. And the theme of unfulfilled love, which the poem elaborates, might not have been personal, for such a theme was in Chaucer's time a part of the poetic convention only. The next is the Book of the Duchess, जो आपने शायद खुद भी पढ़ा हो. And this Book of the Duchess was an elegy composed on the death of Blanche. Who was Blanche? The Duchess of Lancaster and the first wife of John of Gaunt. और John of Gaunt कौन था? He was Chaucer's patron. She died late in 1369 and the poem was composed within a few months after her death. Chaucer borrowed the facts from a number of sources and the notable of which, कौन से sources मेन थे? ये क्वेश्चन आता है कि जो बुक ऑफ डचेस लिखा है चौसर ने, वो किनकी हेल्प से लिखा होगा. तो उसमें जो नोटेबल सोर्सेज हैं वो हैं ओविड की मेटामॉर्फोसिस, ओविड्स मेटामॉर्फोसिस. The technique of the poem is modeled on the conventional courtly poet of France of the same period, and it proves the strong influence of French romantic poetry of Chaucer. And there are also references to this poem in the two other poems of Chaucer, that is the Legion of Good Women and the Man of Law's Tale in the Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales जब आप पढ़ेंगे ना तो उसमें बहुत सारी tales हैं, तो उसमें एक tale का नाम है Man of Law's Tale. And this poem, the Book of the Duchess, is written in the free octosyllabic verse. Then he has written a poem, The Complaint of Mars. The Complaint ऐसे कर सकते हैं, of MARS. This was a poem again allegorical, which he might have written somewhere around 1374. And this poem, the theme of this poem centers around some mythological story of a love between Mars. Mars क्या है? The god of war, and Venus, the goddess of love, which is actually a very highly conventional theme of that period. So the next poem is The Parliament of Fowls, very important poem. The Parliament of Fowls. Parliament of Fowls, students, it is a long poem in which the poet very subtly wrote on the theme of love through an imaginary account of the parliament of birds. Chaucer used once again the rhyme rhyme stanza and freely used his source materials consisting of diverse literary works of the past. It is a great poem. इसी को कहते हैं, एक बार आया था क्वेश्चन कि what is the name of that poem which is a beast fable? So the answer was The Parliament of Fowls. The next poem is Complaint to His Lady. Complaint to His Lady. ऐसे Complaint to His Lady. ये भी चौसर की अर्ली पीरियड की पोएम है, somewhere around 1374. And again the subject of this poem is the romantic unfulfilled love. And the most interesting feature of this poem is the presence of the tarza rima stanza. इसमें जो इस्तेमाल किया है वो है tarza rima stanza, and the typical Italian poetic stanza that has been popularized by Dante in Divina Commedia, वो इसने उठाया है. This was popular in Dante's Divine Comedy. इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? ये शो करता है कि जो इटालियन इन्फ्लुएंस है वो बहुत स्ट्रांग था चौसर के ऊपर when he composed this poem, and hence we can say that Chaucer composed it soon after his first visit to Italy, जब वो इटली गया था. Clear? Now I will give you a poem, Annelida. Annelida and Archite. ये पोएम्स आपको कहीं किसी किताबों में भी नहीं मिलेंगे, और ऐसी ही चीजें ये निकाल करके एग्जाम वाले पूछ लेते हैं और बच्चे सोचते हैं कि कहां से आया था. So now it is evident that this poem was written after Chaucer's second visit to Italy, which was about in 1380, and this poem shows the strong influence of Boccaccio. कि कितना ज्यादा बोकाक्यो से इन्फ्लुएंस था ये पोएम बताती है. द थीम ऑफ दिस पोएम इज टेकन फ्रॉम बोकाक्योस एपिक पोएम टिसीडिया. बोकाक्यो की पोएम थी एक टीईसी टिसीडिया, ऐसे TESIASS टिसीडिया. ये जो थीम है ये बोकाक्यो की एक एपिकल पोएम थी जहां से उसने लिया है, एंड the same source as that of the story of Palmon and Archite in the Knight's Tale. जो चौसर की नाइट्स टेल है, चौसर के कैंटेबरी टेल्स में, उसमें कैरेक्टर है पैलेमोन एंड आर्काइट इन द नाइट्स टेल. So the theme is taken from Boccaccio's epic poem Tisida, the same source as that of the story of Palmon and Archite in the Knight's Tale in the Canterbury Tales. And the poem shows an interesting technical experiments in stanzaic structure and the rhyming scheme. Now, there is a poem known as The Former Age, Formerage, The Former Age. This poem is based on the philosophy of Boethius. Philosophy of Boethius, in the philosophy of Boethius, and critics are of the opinion that Chaucer composed this poem late in his life. केवल नाम ही याद रख लीजिए, The Former Age. इसी तरह से उसकी एक पोएम थी जिसका नाम है Fortune, केवल फॉर्च्यून, only fortune. This theme of the poem is developed again on the basis of the philosophy of Boethius, that misfortune has at least one benefit to confer, in that it unmasks, मतलब जो झूठे दोस्त होते हैं उनको unmask कर देती है. Chaucer treats this theme in a sufficiently detached manner to preclude the possibility of interpreting the poem as the fruit of some personal experience. He might have composed this poem in the later portion of his life, and the poem also follows the French technique of the ballad stanza. So these are the some mainline poems, and some of the poems which you did not must have ever heard about it. One poem I will also last discuss, that is The Legend of Good Women. One of the most important and the lesser known poems is The Legend of Good Women, which was composed, and the poem begins with the description of a conference in which the poet is rebuked by the god of love for his having spoken slightingly of women in his earlier poems. And after an intercession on the poet's behalf by the queen, the poet undertakes to narrate the stories of good women. 10 women celebrated in ancient legends and literature. And the poem in its first draft was dedicated to N.A., Queen of Richard II. ये याद रखिएगा. It was dedicated to N.A., Queen of Richard II. So here I end this lecture, and because today it was given to students, I am sure they might have liked it. And my students who are already in this batch, they must have attained a lot of new informations and would have loved to listen and to prepare about this entire age from the Norman Saxons to the 1485, a complete blend in 1 hour, and including a lot of details about Chaucer and his poems, where I have given you a lot many new poems with a lot many new knowledge. Okay, students, thank you so much. And any questions you can ask me. So, okay, thank you so much, students. Most of the students have written that yes, we have loved the lecture and it was too good and things like that. So I'm also happy that you liked it and the other new students are benefited. So I would again advise all my present students, all my students who are watching me live, that they must go for the June examination with proper preparation, with the help of my these live lectures, and yes, my study materials too, if they wish so. Thank you so much.